Have you ever felt like the world around you is only half the story? Like you're walking through life with a curtain over your eyes, sensing that there's something more, but you can't quite put it into words? This feeling, that there's more than meets the eye, is as old as humanity itself. Across time and across cultures, people spoke of a hidden sight. Not the sight of the eyes in your head, but the sight of the mind, the soul, the spirit. The Hindus called it the Ajna chakra, placed at the center of the forehead, the seat of higher awareness. The Egyptians carved the eye of Horus into temples, believing it symbolized healing, protection, and vision beyond the ordinary. The Greeks whispered about the pineal gland, a tiny crystal-like organ deep within the brain, and philosophers like Descartes would one day call it the seat of the soul. And even though they lived in different times, spoke different languages, and worshipped different gods, they all pointed toward the same mystery, the third eye. But what exactly is the third eye? Is it a literal organ, hidden and waiting to be unlocked? Is it just a metaphor for intuition and insight? Or is it something even deeper, something Carl Jung, the great depth psychologist, would later try to explain through the language of the unconscious mind? Today I want to take you on a journey. Not the kind of journey you take on an airplane, but a journey inward. A journey where we'll explore ancient traditions, psychological truths, spiritual myths, and the raw reality of what it means to awaken the third eye. And let me be clear, this isn't about magic tricks or instant enlightenment. This is about something far more powerful, learning to see yourself, your life, and the world without the blindfolds society has placed on you. So, let's begin where it all started, with the ancients. Ancient wisdom of the third eye. Imagine standing inside an ancient Egyptian temple. Torches flicker on the walls, casting long shadows across the carved stone. And there, in the center of the wall, is the eye of Horus. Its lines are sharp, its curves deliberate, as though it's not just a symbol, but a message left behind for those willing to see. To the Egyptians, the eye represented more than sight. It was perception itself. They believed this inner eye could guide a person between the realms of the living and the dead, the known and the unknown. It was both spiritual and practical, a way of saying, to truly see, you must go beyond the physical. Now shift the scene. Picture India thousands of years ago. Yogis sitting cross-legged under banyan trees chanting mantras, eyes half closed. They spoke of the Ajna chakra, the third eye, not as a superstition, but as a real center of awareness. It wasn't just about seeing visions. It was about piercing through illusion, through Maya, the veil of false appearances that traps the human mind. They believed, when the third eye opened, a person could see reality as it truly is. Not filtered through ego, not twisted by desire, not clouded by fear, but pure, unedited, raw. And then, thousands of miles away, ancient Chinese masters of Taoism developed practices of inner alchemy. They too spoke of an inner vision, a hidden sight that awakens when the mind becomes still. For them, the third eye wasn't just spiritual, it was energy, life force, qi flowing into higher awareness. Do you see the pattern? No matter where you go, no matter which culture you study, the idea of the third eye always appears. Egypt, India, China, Greece, different names, different practices, but the same truth. Human beings knew that ordinary sight wasn't enough, that we need another kind of vision, a deeper one, to navigate life fully. But here's the question. Were they just speaking in metaphors, or did they know something real? Something science would only begin to uncover thousands of years later? The pineal gland, a biological key? Deep inside your brain, right between the two hemispheres, sits a small pine-cone-shaped organ. Tiny, fragile, easy to overlook. This is the pineal gland. For centuries, scientists didn't know what it was for. It doesn't control movement, like the cerebellum. It doesn't process information like the cortex. It just sits there, silent, like a mystery waiting to be solved. René Descartes, the French philosopher, believed it was the seat of the soul. He thought it was the point where the immaterial mind and the physical body met. Modern scientists might laugh at that idea, but here's the thing. The pineal gland is responsible for regulating sleep, circadian rhythms, and even produces melatonin. Some researchers speculate it may even produce trace amounts of DMT, a powerful chemical associated with mystical experiences. So was Descartes wrong? Or was he seeing something the rest of science has been too cautious to admit? The ancients placed their symbols of the third eye right where the pineal gland sits in the brain. The Hindus marked the forehead with a bindi. The Egyptians carved an eye whose shape matches the cross-section of the pineal gland. Coincidence? Maybe, but maybe not. This is where Carl Jung steps into the picture. Carl Jung and the hidden mind Jung wasn't interested in chakras or Egyptian gods. At least not directly. He was interested in the human psyche, the depths of the mind most people never explore. He believed we all carry two parts of the mind, the conscious and the unconscious. The conscious is everything you know about yourself, your name, your job, your likes and dislikes. It's the mask you wear, what he called the persona. But beneath that, hidden in the shadows, lies the unconscious. And this is where Jung's work connects with the third eye. The unconscious isn't just random thoughts. It's filled with archetypes, universal patterns of human experience. The hero, the mother, the shadow, the wise old man. These are stories that live inside all of us, shaping our dreams, our choices, even our fears. And then there's the shadow. The part of you that you don't want to admit exists. Your anger, your jealousy, your fears. The parts you push away, deny, and pretend aren't real. Jung believed that true growth, true awakening, comes not from avoiding the shadow, but from facing it, from integrating it, from shining the light of awareness into those dark corners of the soul. Sound familiar? That's exactly what the third eye has always been about. It's not about seeing angels or predicting the future. It's about seeing yourself clearly, without lies, without filters, without denial. When the third eye opens in a Jungian sense, it's not a supernatural event. It's a psychological one. It's when you finally admit who you are. The good, the bad, the beautiful, the ugly, all of it. And in that moment, you gain power. Because once you can see your shadow, it no longer controls you. You begin to live consciously, not blindly, the first steps of awakening. So what does it mean to begin awakening the third eye? Let's strip away the myths for a moment. No, it's not about drinking a potion or meditating for 5 minutes and suddenly seeing visions. It's about a shift in awareness. And that shift often starts with a simple feeling, dissatisfaction. You start to feel like something is missing. Like the life you're living isn't quite yours. Like you're wearing a mask that doesn't fit. This discomfort, though painful, is the first sign that your inner eye is trying to open. Jung would say this is the unconscious breaking through the surface. Your dreams might become more vivid, your emotions more intense. You might find yourself questioning things you never questioned before. Why do I act this way? Why do I believe what I believe? Why do I repeat the same mistakes? It can feel uncomfortable, even terrifying. But that's how it always begins. The ancients warned of this. They said awakening the third eye isn't a gentle process. It shakes you. It forces you to confront truths you've avoided. It takes you into the shadow. And only then, if you are brave enough to keep going, do you begin to see with clarity. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine shrinking down smaller and smaller until you're no bigger than a grain of sand, and then stepping inside the human brain. You pass the folds of the cortex, like endless gray mountains stretching into the distance. You pass the thalamus, the amygdala, the hippocampus, and there, right in the middle, you find something tiny. A small pine cone-shaped gland no bigger than a grain of rice, the pineal gland. Science tells us it regulates sleep and biological rhythms, but mystics across cultures insisted it does something more. They believed it is a gateway, a door, a bridge between the world we see and the world we feel. Now, some scientists roll their eyes when they hear this. To them, the pineal gland is just another hormone factory, pumping melatonin into the bloodstream. But here's the thing. Every great mystery begins as something ordinary. The ocean was once thought to be endless. The stars were once thought to be holes in the sky. And the pineal gland? Maybe it's not just biology. Maybe it's a doorway we haven't learned to measure yet. Even in modern neuroscience, researchers have noticed something strange. The pineal gland contains microscopic crystals shaped like little antennas. These crystals have piezoelectric properties, meaning they can generate electrical signals when pressure is applied. Some researchers speculate they could act like tiny receivers, picking up subtle signals from who knows where. Now, is this proven? Not yet. But isn't it interesting that ancient people placed so much importance on this exact spot in the body? The same spot science still doesn't fully understand? Jung's shadow and the third eye. But let's leave the lab coats behind for a moment and step into Jung's world. Because Jung would tell us this. Whether the third eye is physical or not, what truly matters is its psychological meaning. Think about it. What happens when you really begin to see yourself clearly? Not just the mask you show others. Not just the parts you like about yourself, but the whole picture. This is what Jung called the shadow. The shadow is the collection of traits, impulses, and memories we reject. It's the anger you deny, the jealousy you hide, the trauma you bury. All the parts of yourself that you push away, they don't disappear. They sink into the unconscious. Now imagine the third eye opening. What happens? Those shadows come flooding out. Suddenly you see what you've been ignoring, the fear, the desire, the patterns of behavior that keep repeating. It's like shining a flashlight into a dark cave and realizing the monsters you feared were always parts of yourself. And here's the paradox. Those monsters aren't just enemies. They're also sources of energy. That anger you deny, it can become strength. That jealousy you suppress, it can become ambition. That fear you run from, it can become wisdom, but only if you face it. So in Jung's language, the third eye isn't about visions of angels or cosmic landscapes. It's about inner confrontation. The awakening of the third eye is the moment you finally stop running from yourself. It's the courage to stand in front of your shadow and say, I see you, I accept you, and I will transform you. Dreams as inner vision, but how do we even glimpse these hidden parts of ourselves? Jung believed dreams were the key. Every night when you close your eyes, your mind takes you on a journey. Strange landscapes, bizarre events, impossible creatures. At first glance, they seem random. But Jung argued that dreams are the language of the unconscious. Symbols, metaphors, archetypes rising to the surface. In your dream, maybe you see a snake. It could mean danger, transformation, or hidden wisdom, depending on how it appears. Maybe you see a wise old man giving you advice. That's an archetype Jung called the wise old sage, a symbol of the deeper guidance within you. Or maybe you're chased by a monster. That's often your shadow demanding to be acknowledged. Now think about this. When ancient cultures spoke of visions, of prophets seeing with the inner eye, isn't it possible they were describing the same process? A dream, a vision, a symbolic encounter with the unconscious. The third eye, then, is not about inventing fantasy. It's about learning to read the images your own mind gives you. When you start paying attention to your dreams, you begin to train your inner vision. You begin to notice patterns, recurring symbols, themes that echo through your life. And in that process, the third eye begins to awaken, not through magic, but through attention, the struggles of awakening. But let's be honest. Opening the third eye sounds glamorous. People imagine mystical powers, sudden enlightenment, a life free of pain. The reality is much messier. When your perception expands, the first thing you see is often pain. The pain you've ignored, the lies you've told yourself, the illusions you've clung to. It can feel like the world is crumbling. Your relationships may change. Your beliefs may be shaken. You might feel lost, disoriented, even depressed. The ancients warned about this. They said awakening isn't light pouring in gently. It's lightning cracking open the sky. It's a storm before the calm, and not everyone is ready for it. Jung understood this deeply. He saw patients who encountered their unconscious too quickly, without preparation, and it destabilized them. That's why he emphasized balance. You don't just dive into the shadow without support. You integrate slowly, carefully, piece by piece, and here's where discipline comes in. Meditation, reflection, journaling, therapy. These aren't just spiritual hobbies, they're tools for navigating, awakening without being destroyed by it, because here's the truth. The third eye doesn't just show you light, it shows you everything. And sometimes everything is hard to bear. So how do you know when the third eye begins to awaken? It's not like a switch you flip. It doesn't happen with fireworks or sudden visions of glowing light. Instead, it begins quietly, like a whisper. Like a feeling deep inside that your way of seeing the world is no longer the same. Signs of awakening. One of the first signs is sensitivity. You notice things you used to ignore. The tension in someone's voice, the sadness hiding behind their smile. The way the energy of a room changes when a person walks in. It's as if the volume of life has been turned up. And now you hear things that were always there, but you never paid attention to before. Another sign is clarity in patterns. You begin to see loops in your own behavior, the way you keep choosing the same kind of partner, the way you keep sabotaging yourself right when things are going well. You realize these aren't accidents. They're unconscious scripts running your life. And the moment you see them, the spell begins to break. Dreams become vivid. Sometimes too vivid. You wake up sweating, heart racing, because your unconscious is no longer content to stay hidden. It wants to be seen. It pushes symbols into your awareness, demanding attention. And then there's intuition. You start to feel nudges, gut feelings, a knowing that doesn't come from logic. Sometimes it saves you from mistakes. Sometimes it pulls you toward opportunities. And the more you listen, the louder it becomes. But here's the thing. These signs aren't always comfortable. In fact, they can be overwhelming. And that's where the dark side of awakening comes in. The dark side of the third eye opening. The third eye isn't all light and bliss. It also means confronting darkness. When you suddenly see through illusions, the world can feel empty. The beliefs that once gave you comfort begin to feel hollow. The people you thought you knew reveal sides of themselves you'd rather not see. And perhaps hardest of all, you realize how much of your own life has been shaped by fear, by avoidance, by lies you told yourself. This stage is sometimes called the dark night of the soul. It's a period where everything feels uncertain, unstable, even meaningless. Spiritual teachers warn about it. Jung wrote about it, and countless people have experienced it. It's the price of seeing, because the truth is, awakening strips away illusions. And most of us live on illusions. Illusions about who we are. Illusions about what makes us happy. Illusions about what life is supposed to be. When those illusions fall apart, you can feel lost. Like standing in a desert with no map. Like everything you knew is gone, but the new vision hasn't fully arrived yet. The danger of ego death. And then there's ego death. People romanticize it, but in reality it can be terrifying. The ego is your sense of self. It's the I you wake up with every morning. The me that goes to work, makes decisions, argues, loves, fights, and dreams. When the third eye opens too quickly, that I can dissolve. You may feel like you're dying, even though your body is fine. You may feel like you don't exist at all, like you're floating in nothingness. For some, this experience is liberating. For others, it's traumatizing. Jung saw this happen to people who encountered the unconscious without preparation. Instead of integrating what they found, they were swallowed by it. He called this inflation, when the ego identifies with something greater than itself and loses balance. Think of someone who has a mystical experience and suddenly believes they are a prophet, chosen by the universe. Or someone who becomes obsessed with visions, convinced they're special while neglecting ordinary life. This is the danger of the third eye without grounding. Because the truth is, awakening isn't about escaping reality. It's about engaging with it more fully. Not running away from your human life, but bringing more awareness into it. Real stories of awakening. Let me share an example. There was once a man, an ordinary man, working a regular job, living a regular life. He began meditating slowly a few minutes each day. At first nothing happened, but over time he noticed his dreams becoming clearer. He noticed patterns in his thoughts. And one night during meditation he felt something shift. It was as if a curtain lifted, and suddenly he could see the machinery of his own mind. But instead of bliss, he felt fear. Because what he saw wasn't angels or light. It was his anger, his jealousy, his selfishness, all the parts of himself he had tried to deny. It was overwhelming. He almost stopped meditating. But slowly, with patience, he kept going. And over time, he began to accept those parts of himself. He realized they weren't enemies. They were fragments of his soul, waiting to be acknowledged. This is awakening. Not instant bliss, not magical powers, but a slow, often painful process of becoming whole. Integration is the key. So if the third eye can bring both light and darkness, how do we navigate it? The answer is integration. Jung insisted that the goal of depth psychology wasn't perfection, but wholeness. Not becoming flawless, but becoming real. Not escaping your humanity, but embracing it. When your inner eye opens, you will see your shadow. But instead of running, you learn to hold it. Instead of denying, you learn to integrate. Instead of pretending, you learn to live authentically. And here's the paradox. Once you stop fighting yourself, the energy you once wasted in denial becomes power. The anger becomes courage. The fear becomes wisdom. The pain becomes compassion. This is the gift of the third eye. So, we arrive here at the final stage of the journey. We've walked with Jung. We've listened to whispers of ancient mystics. We've felt the trembling of the shadow and the illumination of the inner eye. But what happens after awakening? After the visions, after the insights, after the breakthroughs, what then? This is the question of mastery. And mastery, as Jung would remind us, is not about perfection. It is about integration. It is about holding both the darkness and the light in the same hand, without fear, without judgment, without losing yourself. The quiet power of integration, imagine the third eye wide open. You see connections where others see chaos. You sense meaning where others see randomness. You feel both the suffering and the beauty of existence at once. At first, this can be overwhelming. Like a flood of images, sounds, and feelings rushing through your soul. But over time, with practice, this raw perception begins to soften. You learn not just to receive visions, but to live with them. This is integration. Not the sudden explosion of insight, but the patient weaving of wisdom into everyday life. Carl Jung called this the process of individuation, becoming whole, not by discarding the shadow, not by running from the unconscious, but by inviting them to the table of the self. It's like becoming the conductor of an orchestra. Every part of you, fear, love, anger, desire, intuition, each has its own voice. Without a conductor, it's noise. But with balance, with guidance, it becomes music. Living with the inner vision. The greatest test of an awakened third eye is not what you see in meditation. It is how you live after opening your eyes. Do you treat others with compassion? Do you forgive yourself for your mistakes? Do you face suffering with courage instead of denial? An awakened person is not someone floating above the ground, free of pain. No. They are someone rooted deeply in reality, but no longer trapped by it. Think of a lotus flower. It grows in the mud. Its roots are buried in the dark, sticky earth, but its petals rise toward the sun. This is what mastery feels like, anchored in shadow, reaching for light. The dance of the shadow. One last time, even in mastery, the shadow never disappears. You can integrate it, you can accept it, you can transform it, but it always lingers. It is the eternal companion. Jung believed the shadow is not an enemy. It is a teacher. Without it, there would be no growth. Without it, the light would mean nothing. So when fear returns, when jealousy rises, when anger burns again, don't say, I failed in my spiritual journey. Instead say, the shadow has come to remind me. To test me, to sharpen me. The third eye does not erase the shadow. It allows you to see it clearly, without illusion. The world through awakened eyes. How does the world look when you've passed through this fire? Colors are richer, silence is deeper. Even pain is more meaningful. You no longer rush blindly after pleasure, nor run endlessly from discomfort. You begin to see the patterns in everything. The way life moves in cycles. Birth, growth, decay, renewal. The way every ending hides a beginning. The way every loss carries a hidden seed of transformation. Some call this enlightenment. But Jung might have simply called it maturity of the soul. You become less obsessed with being special, and more devoted to being real. You don't escape the world. You engage with it more fully, with clearer eyes, with a steadier heart. The final door, and yet, there is always one more threshold. The final door that every soul must cross. Death. For Jung, death was not just the end of life, but the completion of individuation. The final dissolving of the self into the greater whole. The ultimate return to the unconscious, the collective sea from which we all emerged. The third eye prepares us for this, not by giving us false promises of immortality, but by teaching us how to die before we die. To release the ego, to let go of clinging, to surrender into the vastness. This surrender is not defeat. It is liberation, the eternal flame. And so, dear listener, what remains? What remains after all the visions, all the struggles, all the questions? A flame, small, quiet, steady. The flame of awareness. It does not boast. It does not demand. It simply burns, lighting the path before you one step at a time. This is mastery. Not fireworks, not endless bliss, but the simple, steady light of consciousness carried through the chaos of life. Closing reflections. Carl Jung once said, "Your vision will become clear only when you look into your heart." Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes. The third eye is not about escaping the world. It is about awakening within it. It is about seeing clearly, loving deeply, and living fully. And so as we close this journey, I ask you, what will you do with your inner vision? How will you live now that you've glimpsed the truth behind the veil? Will you turn away, back to distraction, back to sleep? Or will you carry this awareness with you into each breath, each word, each act of kindness? The choice is yours. It always has been. It always will be. And perhaps that is the final secret of the third eye. It does not give you answers. It gives you vision. And with vision, you must choose. Choose wisely. Choose bravely. Choose with love, for the journey never ends. It only deepens. And the flame, your flame, will light the way.